What is going on YouTube, and welcome to Games on Deck. Today is a Scuttlebutt series, a little short about something that happened to me in my past. Some of you out there might be believers in ghosts and some of you may not. Each has their own merits and we completely understand why. But today I'm going to tell you why all of a sudden I became a leader when I was a young man. Without further ado, everybody, welcome aboard to this story series. This is Games on Deck. Alright everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to talk about a story in my past that is absolutely chilling. So, when I was young, I ended up in a town called Biloxi, Mississippi. This was a long time ago when I was really little. My parents had been going through a separation and my mother had primary custody at the time. So she moved us into this small town area. It was like a little apartment area that was right outside the train tracks. My belief is that it used to be a plantation of some kind. Couldn't tell you for sure. But anyway, long story short, she moved us to this area, and it was a new experience for us. So we moved in. Everything seemed quite normal. Just a kid getting into his home with his mother, and it turned out to be an okay house. It was something that my mom really needed at the time. I had two younger brothers. They shared a room, and then I had a room, and then my mother had a room. It wasn't a bad place, just, something small, something that you could live in, cozy. So my first experience with the paranormal, quote unquote, was in this house. One day I was just taking a bath on my own. I was in there, and all of a sudden I just heard something whisper my name. Really chilling and creepy. I thought nothing of it. I thought, okay, maybe I was just hearing things. Maybe this was just something that happened routinely, or somebody was playing a prank on me. So I called to say, yeah, who is it? Outside the door, thinking, okay, somebody was messing with me. But there was nobody there. My mother had been all the way out in the living room. I was all the way in the other side of the house, and my brothers weren't there at the time. So that was my first real experience of it. And then a little bit later, some of our neighbors had told us about experience that they had had on that property. And again, this property consisted of a whole bunch of different houses, all in different areas. And they had told us about, neighbors complaining that like their chairs would be moved, or they would be flipped, or things would be thrown at them. I'm just a kid. I think ghost story is cool. I didn't really care about that. I've always been a little bit skeptical until this next moment. So we had ended up down south visiting my father for the summer, but before we went to see him, we were staying at a friend's house in the same area, the same property, and housing a good friend that my mother had made down there. So we were staying in her house, and I had been sitting on a chair. It was like a round, like rocking chair, kind of like this, like a rock. Relax on it, and my mother had been on the couch over 10 feet to my right. I guess right for you all. I'm not sure how it's going to record that way, but she'd been sitting over there, and she laid down, fell asleep, and I had just been watching some TV. So I watched, I can't even remember what the show was at the time, but I had finished watching the show. I turned off the TV, and long story short, I'm like, maybe 13 years old. I'm old enough to understand things, 13, 14 years old. So I kind of get what's going on. And I'm just laying there, relaxing, having a moment. Looked up at the ceiling for a little bit after I had turned off the TV, probably about like 10 minutes or so. Anyway, I was about ready to turn in and go to sleep, so I rolled over to my right, and all of a sudden I saw, looking down at my mother, this clear figure just staring down at her. And this was terrifying to me. It was of a woman who was in all white, which I guess you could say that is a generic ghost, but it looked like she was kind of wearing a veil, and she was just there staring down at my mother. And I looked over there seeing this, and she looked at me, and then in total panic, being a young kid and squeamish or what have you, just covered myself up, just total chills, like, did I just see that? What did I just see? This is absolutely terrifying. I couldn't have seen that. So I waited there with that over my head for maybe what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably like 8 to 10 minutes, just totally terrified at what I had just seen. So I slowly took the blanket up, looked out, nothing there, looking down at it. I might think, okay, maybe he was seeing things, or it was just like light series on his eyes from watching TV or what have you. But again, it had been 10 minutes or so after watching the TV. Anyway, the next day, I had talked to my mom about it. I said, Mom, I saw something weird last night. And she asked me what I had seen. And I told her I had seen what looked like this woman looking down at her. And I described her in detail like I did for you. And my mother like turned almost white as a ghost. And she said she had seen the same thing a year prior, having stayed there. I had no idea. She never told anybody. And I had described the exact same thing. She had seen a woman looking literally down on her as she was laying on this couch, in this veil, in what seemed like a nightgown, like an old school like nightgown, looking down at her. And then she later told me that the person that she stayed with had events happen to her there. Her cats would just be staring at the wall and then just do that little cat growl. It was like, "Arr!" That like weird growl thing for no reason whatsoever. And she had seen, the owner of this home had seen actual apparitions, which is absolutely terrifying. But anyway, that was the day that I had first started to believe that maybe there is a little bit more to this paranormal thing. So, what do you all think? Are you skeptics? Do you have stories perhaps that you would like to tell, or things that you have experienced paranormal wise, or maybe you just don't believe at all, haven't had any experience? That's okay too. Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, if you liked it, please climb up the mast, ring that bell so you get a notification on any video that I put out. I'd really appreciate it. And also give it a like. It really helps me out, and I appreciate all the support that you all give me. Without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this story. This is Games on Deck.